Then Jesus said to the Jews who had believed in him, "If you continue in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free." They answered him, "We are descendants of Abraham, and have never been slaves to anyone. What do you mean by saying you will be made free?" Jesus answered them, "Very truly I tell you, everyone who commits sin is a slave to sin. The slave does not have a permanent place in the household. The Son has a place there forever. So if the Son makes you free, you will be free indeed." Free indeed. Welcome to the word from the porch. I bet most of you know what this is. As kids, we used to call it a life jacket or a life preserver. Technically now it's a personal flotation device, but I kind of like a life jacket better. It gives you a clearer picture of what it's for, to save your life, right? I want you to imagine you're on a cruise ship, big ship. If you've never been on a cruise ship, I got to tell you, they are huge. They're like floating hotels, even the small ones. And by some crazy accident, you leaned the wrong way or something, and just, if you've never been on a cruise, I want you to know this is vanishingly rare. It almost never happens, but just roll with me. Use your imagination and imagine that somehow you fell overboard. But the captain is sharp and her crew is sharp, and they immediately notice and stop the ship and very, very, very carefully see where you are, and turns out you're right close. And so the captain looks overboard and sees you paddling around in the water, and she says, "So what sort of grades are you getting in school?" And you're kind of puzzled because you're in a pretty bad situation here in the middle of the ocean. But you look up and say, okay, I guess. And then she says, "Well, how about accomplishments? Have you invented anything really significant, or, saved somebody's life, or really made some kind of major help to the world in some way?" And again, you're racking your brain and starting to get tired and starting to get worried, and you're thinking, "Well, no, not really, not yet." And then she says, "Well, I'll tell you what, somewhere around the middle of this ship, there's a ladder a few feet off of the water, kind of welded to the side of the ship. Why don't you see if you can swim over there and see how far you can make it on your own?" We could keep going, but it's ridiculous, isn't it? There is no captain on any ship that would ever do anything like that, because every captain knows that when somebody falls in the water, when they need saving, it doesn't matter who they are, it doesn't matter what their circumstances are, it doesn't matter how capable or incapable they are, you throw them the life jacket. You give them what they need to be saved, because that's just what you do. Every captain knows that. In fact, human beings know that. And this is why it's so heartbreaking that around the time of Martin Luther and the Reformation, the church had gotten so far off of the track that they were beginning to teach that God was like a wicked captain, that demanded that you had to do certain things and be certain things and believe certain things before God would throw you the life jacket, before you would be saved. In fact, it got so bad that around Martin Luther's time, the church was actually selling salvation. They were saying that if you had enough money, you could pay the church and you would be given a piece of paper saying you were saved. Or if you had relatives who had died and you wanted to make sure that they were in heaven, you could pay money and get a piece of paper. The church would promise that for a certain amount of money paid, God would throw them the life preserver in purgatory or wherever they were. It was terrible. And it is so far away from who God really is and so far away from what the Bible teaches us about who God really is, that all of God's people felt enslaved by this fear, by this oppressive lie, frankly, that had been being told. Because if you look in this Bible, right here in Ephesians, Paul writes, "For by grace we are saved, through faith." And it's not of ourselves. It's a gift of God, not as a result of works, so that no one can boast. And that is such a wonderful truth. It is a gift of God. It is pure grace. God knew before the world began. In fact, before the world began, God loved you. God looked forward to this moment in time when you would be alive. And God also knew that you would need help. You would need to be saved. That you would end up using the metaphor in the drink, unable to escape without help. God knew this. And so rather than requiring you to figure it out, to come up with the right answer, to work, to say the right thing, to believe the right thing, to do the right thing, like the best eternal captain who is love itself, God planned for your rescue even before you were born. And God saved you before you were born. God threw you the life jacket so that when you found yourself in that situation, you were already taken care of by the God who loves you so much. There's nothing that sets you more free than that. And so nowadays, as believers, as followers of Jesus Christ, for the sake of the world, we don't live a certain way. We don't love a certain way. We don't have to act a certain way because we're afraid, because we're slaves to this cruel God who won't save us unless we get it right. We are absolutely free to live lives of joy, lives of service, lives of meaning, because we know the one who called all of this into existence loved us and made provisions for our salvation even before time began. God threw us the life jacket even before we knew we needed it. And so on this time of year when we celebrate the Reformation, when we celebrate the fact that God never gave up on us, never gave up on the church, and kept sending us people to tell us how much we are loved, including Martin Luther, I hope you'll be encouraged by this amazing and wonderful news that God loves you and saved you before you even knew that you needed it.
salvation glorious. The old satanic foe has sworn to work us woe with craft and dreadful might. He arms himself to fight. On earth he has no equal. Though hordes of devils fill the land, all threatening to devour us, we tremble not, unmoved we stand. They cannot overpower us. Let this world's tyrant rage. In battle we'll engage. His might is doomed to fail. God's judgment must reign.